Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So we're on the 5th pauri of Japji Sahib. And it is very interesting to realize that while the pauris are moving us forward in our understanding of the core of Sikhi, while each pauri is taking us a step further and a step deeper, it is also referring back to the Mool Mantra, which is the foundation of Sikhi, which is the core definition of Akal Purkh, which is also the core message on how we attain that pure consciousness, because it's all about consciousness. It's all about becoming Niranjan, becoming immaculate, becoming pure. So, in the Mool Mantra, Akal Purkh is described as Ek Omkar. Now, Omkar, as we have deliberated many times, is the pasara, the vibration that is manifest. And Ek is what has made this message so unique, because Om is a word that was always there. It's there in the Upanishads and the Vedanta and the several traditions. But Ek, by putting Ek, Guruji has sort of put a stake in the ground, so to speak, that this is one. I mean, without this, you really don't understand anything. And it all starts with Ek. So, Thapya na jai, kita na hoy. That Ek cannot be sculpted, cannot be created by anyone, and cannot be established. Thapya is established, cannot be established by anyone. Now, in the Eastern tradition, it's very common, we've all grown up in India, to have temples dedicated to different deities. And the murtis of different deities are ordered. And the person who sculpts them is given a fee for creating them, for making them, right? After the murtis are made, they are established. An auspicious occasion is called for by the Pandit. That when should we establish this? When do we put it in the mandir? And when do we actually start worshipping it? So that is establishing. When a king is crowned, that's the coronation. The king is established in the kingdom. So anytime a powerful person or a powerful deity is coronated, we call it established. Up until then, up until the point that the president takes oath or the king is crowned or the murti is established, they are still not at that point where they are that deity or that powerful person. So an auspicious occasion is taken out from the astrological charts or whatever, and then the murti is established, and after that it becomes the god or the goddess. Okay? That is the process. Guruji says that Ek, that pure, powerful, infinite energy is neither created by anyone nor established by anyone. That energy, that powerful, pure consciousness is what? Coming back to the Mool Mantra, Aad Sach, Jugad Sach. Having such, Nanak Hosi be such. And so when we understand that, it was always there in the beginning, then truly there is no creator. For everything else, whether they are presidents or kings or deities, there is a creator. And there is a moment to establish them. For this Ek, there is no date of establishing and there is no creator. Sat Bhang. Thapya na jaye, kita na hoy. Aape aap niranjan soy. This consciousness is so perfect and so pure that it is the only consciousness, the only entity that is immaculate. That is Niranjan. That is not contaminated, polluted, affected by Maya. by Anjan. Everything else gets impacted. When you take the strongest bar of iron that you cannot break, right? You leave it alone, and what happens afterward? It gets rusted. You take a piece of wood, and you need a huge axe to chop it. You need a powerful person to chop it. You leave it alone, what happens? It starts getting mildew, it starts getting green. Anything and everything gets impacted by the environment, by the elements, wears down. Not just our body, that's very visible to us as we get older. And everything, every element, everything around, every animate and inanimate object is impacted. It's not Niranjan, it's not immaculate. It may start out being immaculate by looking shining and beautiful, but it doesn't remain so. Except Anjan.
I was going to say what Guruji does say, we can try to aspire to become Niranjan like him.
And that is the consciousness we have to achieve.
By getting in tune.
Exactly, that is our journey to become that pure consciousness. And those are the steps in Japji that will lead us to that. Our awareness is enhanced and opened up through this knowledge, and then we have to become that. Remember, Gurbani Baniye. So, Ape Aap Niranjan Soe, the only entity that is without any contamination, without any pollution, without any impact of the environment, that is absolutely pure, is that ultimate, that pure consciousness. And how do we become pure? Because that is the end game. That is why we are here. Right? Gobind Milan ki ye teri bariya. How do we meet Gobind unless we become like Gobind? And the Guru tells us then, Jin sevya tin paya maan. Whoever has served this pure consciousness has become it. In Parama, Savior. Another key word. We define seva in many ways. Sikhs have particularly understood one aspect of seva, and that is langar seva. Really, they've gotten it, that we have to serve langars. It's wonderful. We do it everywhere. We do it in the gurdwaras, we do it when the tsunami hits a city. That's great. We are known for that. We've become visible for that. But what does the Guru say about seva? Aap gawai seva. That is the seva. Getting rid of your life. Aap gawai seva kare. What is the next line? Aap gawai seva kare. Taake chupaye maan. It's only then that you will be elevated. Aap gawai. Getting rid of the ego is the real seva. Aap gawai seva kare taake chupaye maan. Satgur ki seva gakhdi. Satgur ki seva gakhdi. Again it says, you have to give up. Satgur ki seva gakhdi.
Yug kare chitla hai.
Nahin. Sir dije. You have to give up your head. Sir dije. You have to give up your head. You have to surrender. Satgur ki seva gakhdi. No. I think I wrote this line. Let me see if I can find it. I did a quick search this morning. Sir dije aap. Again aap gawai. Satgur ki seva gakhdi. Sir dije aap gawai. There are so many references. I just noted down a couple. It's all about giving up the ego. Brings us back to the hukmi hovan, the hukmi point, where you have to surrender to the hukam. Seva, the ultimate seva is acceptance, getting rid of the ego, flowing, giving up the harming, Because what is ek? Ek is the energy, ek is the naam, ek is the essence, right? And the Guru says, Hame Name Nadi. So all of these lines are continuously explaining the essence, the path, and reinforcing each concept. Yes, Bhakti?
Then I wanted to add, I mean, I don't know here. Somewhere they say, tan, man, dhan, now, seva. So, tan, seva, what you're saying, that, helping physically people. Man, the seva is no simran. Dhan, the seva, what you earn, you share. So, it takes all the seva, tan, man, dhan, sabha.
Absolutely.
So here, I think, जिन सेवा, I think it's मन दी सेवा, सिमरन, उस दी सिमरन, उसने जिसने सिमरया, उसने मान पाया.
उसने जिसने सिमरया, what is सिमरन? उसकी consciousness which लीन हो जाए.
Exactly.
Simran is remembrance. Simran is, the earliest step of Simran is chanting loudly. But that's like going around, the first baby steps that a child takes, learning the tables, or walking with a walker, or a toddler takes, just taking little steps. But we don't want to remain there. We don't want to just remain in that sphere where we are elementary school children. That Simran has to go inside us. Everywhere it talks about manrata. When the man, when the mind, when the being, when the consciousness becomes completely immersed and engaged in that consciousness. So same thing, probably exactly the same thing. When you do Simran, you get man. But what is Simran?
Yeah.
Simran is getting lost, getting immersed, giving up yourself.
Exactly.
Just like when you love somebody. The parallels are there in the temporal world. When you love someone, your ego is down. You're not fighting that person. Everything is hunky-dory until the ego comes back. In even the worldly relationships where you experience the first flush of love, there is no ego. When a mother is loving the child, the infant, and beyond that, the mother's love is unconditional. Perhaps there is one love, if that is unconditional. And that's because there is no ego there. Everywhere else there is, expectation, there is give and take. And the Guru says when it's give and take, it's commerce. Then it's not love. Ashki is jado apna aap mita do. And oh hunda simran vich, oh hunda yaad vich. So really it all boils down to that. Giving up the self. Complete surrender. Okay, now how does complete surrender become seva? Because no matter what you do, you're thinking of God. You're remembering, you are immersed in that. My mom-in-law, even when she wasn't well, we would come home, she would have cooked the khana, and she would make garam pulka for us. Now you might think it's a small thing, but it isn't. अपने लता लड़खड़ांदे आंदे सीगे, गुजोता है उदली गरम फुल्का बनेगा, मैं आया मेरे बनेगा, अनग आया उदली बनेगा, if Raman drops in by chance उदली बनेगा. So once I asked her, Mama, why don't you just make it all and leave it there? Why do you put yourself through so much trouble? Why do you keep making it? Her answer just blew me away. She says, Bache, when the mother loves her children, it is like worship for her. And she says, when I do these things for my children, in my own way, as a mother, I'm fulfilling my duty that God has given me. And I'm serving in that consciousness. And then I remembered my own mother. I lost my mom about 19, 20 years ago. So I don't remember her as much as I remember my mother-in-law's examples. And then when she said this, I remembered my mom was the same way. She took so much pride in giving and serving her children. And her children were like anyone that dropped by, not just a bloodline. So when you love and you give in that selflessness, with no expectation, then you are serving God. आप गवाए सेवा करे ताकि छुपाए मान. Yes, Vijay.
I was going to say the word seva itself in Gurbani, in this context, seems to be closer to devotion or worship, which of course ideally involves giving up your ego.
Yes.
Kind of ideal devotion.
It is
and
bhakti,
worship.
it is seva. But I'm just trying to bring us
Seva is
down.
not directly equivalent to giving up ego, but it's a requirement for real seva.
It,
To give up your
yes,
ego.
absolutely. Devotion, bhakti is not possible without giving up. You know, Bhai Gurdas की एक line है, आंखें नीचे. Oh my gosh, I wish my memory was like Jagmohan Viruji's. आंखें नीचे. What is it? आंखें नीचे. Basically, he says that that's not bhakti.
Yeah.
You don't, you close your eyes and you chant the Naam. Aankhein niche gaave. Does somebody know this? Aankhein niche gaave. Paaye na parampar. That's the neckline. Aankhein niche gaave sune paaye na parampar. We don't attain the purest consciousness by just closing our eyes. How does one attain purest consciousness? By devotion, through bhakti, through giving up the ego. At least that's how I understand it.
And it's kind of vicious circle. You have to give up ego. You have to do the Simran, and to do the Simran, you have to. So it's a constant, as you said. These are the steps. You have to start with words, verbal words, and then it goes down into your heart, and
Absolutely.
then lips stop. And then, okay, then just look at prana which was there. So then you're thinking about him, H-I-M, all the time, the God. And then you see God in everybody.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
Guy
That's
sune
the
aankhein niche.
situation you
That's
have
the
to
line.
attain.
Guy sune aankhein niche, paaye na parampar. Just doing that. But those are the initial steps.
Exactly.
Ga-
And
ga-
I want to add one more thing. In the murti, we kind of sometimes condemn it. But to initially, एक निर्गुण सरगुण, so initially to start, you have to ध्यान किसी दा करना पड़ेगा, किसी दी फोटो दा, किसी दी मूर्ति दा. So then when it's into you, then you can, it becomes everywhere. So I think we should not, when it becomes ritual and you are not akhmij ke vane baithe, then it's condemned. But initially, I think the people, there are people who murti puja karte, and they have attained much more than
Absolutely.
our
Namdev.
six.
Bhagat Namdev is an example.
Exactly.
But after he attained,
Yeah.
there is a line in Gurbani again, I can only paraphrase it, that says that for this one God, I'll exchange all the gods and goddesses and the deities.
Yeah.
I will do that. And yes, these are symbols, and I absolutely mean no condemnation at all. And I don't think the Guru does either in that regard.
Exactly.
As long as these are reminders, as long as these are baby steps. I don't see, the thing is, it's very important to understand what our core is. Our core is pure consciousness. Our core is that deity that has no form, no shape, no picture, no nothing. That is the goal. Because otherwise we can stay contained in that. And it's all about expansion. So very important, no judgment, no condemnation. Thank you for pointing that out, Gabri. And that was never the intention. Even in this, when the Guru says, there is no condemnation there. There is just edification that look, don't look to any murti that is established as the ultimate, because the one that is the ultimate is neither created nor established by anyone. आपे आप जिन सेव्या तिन पाया मान, जिन्होंने उन सेव्या है प्यार नाल, जिन्होंने उनकी भक्ति की है, जिन्होंने अपना आप निछावर किया है, तिन पाया मान, नानक गाविए गुणी निधान. So yes, that is the first step, by chanting, by remembering, by singing the praises of who? The one who is the treasure of goodness, one who has every goodness. Now again, why many times kids ask, why does God need to be praised? Why do we have to remember God? Why do we have to keep on remembering the virtues? Why do we have to keep saying it? God doesn't need to be praised.
our own self.
We need to praise the goodness, the virtues, so that by dwelling upon them, we slowly imbibe them, we become them. Because we know that the mind becomes what it dwells upon. Jaisa seve taisa hove, right? So that is why gaviye suniye, man rakhiye pao. Ultimately it is dil de vich pyar aayega. All of these lines, all of these verses, all of these concepts are interconnected and supporting each other. Nanak gaviye guni nidhan. ਉਹ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਗਾਣ ਨਾਲ, ਉਹਦੇ ਗੁਣਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਕਰਨ ਨਾਲ, ਚੈਂਟ ਕਰਨ ਨਾਲ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਡਵੈਲ ਕਰਨ ਨਾਲ, we become like that pure consciousness. Again he describes as ਗਾਵੀਏ ਸੁਣੀਏ ਮਨ ਰੱਖੀਏ ਪਾਓ. ਗਾਵੀਏ ਸੁਣੀਏ ਮਨ ਰੱਖੀਏ ਪਾਓ. The ultimate goal is ਮਨ ਰੱਖੀਏ ਪਾਓ. Get your heart imbued with love. Man rakhiye pao. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Otherwise, just listening and chanting without the love doesn't get you to that parampar, as Bhai Gurdas says. Gaave sune, aankhein niche, paaye na parampar.
Athe suniya means you follow it, right?
First you have to listen.
उस चीज़ ਨੂੰ follow करो and
Imbibe. Man rakhiye pao. That is the key.
There's also Kirtan Sunna, listening to others talk about Gurbani.
Yeah, physical,
all of
but
that part.
suniya, the suniya means you, sun very gal. So it's sun, meaning ki follow it.
Listen. That is the first step to follow.
Yeah, listen and do it.
That's the external Sunna, listening to Kirtan, listening to Gurbani,
Right.
listening to what the Guru says. Then there's the internal Sunna, when you start
Exactly.
listening into that inner tune, the inner
You know-
vibration, the now, which is always there.
There's also yet another meaning, which is that once, okay, this is how I think of it. Gana, sunna, it's like priming the pump. Because eventually you're going to listen to the Anat Shabad, which
Which is the
is
internal
inside, which is the
listening.
internal sound that vibrates. And that's when you vibrate at the same frequency that is there in the entire universe. So these are baby steps, Gana Sunna. And that is why, because Bhai Gurdas is not contradicting. They say that Bhai Gurdas's understanding was like the key to Gurbani. Otherwise, why would he say, Gai sunne, gaave sunne, aankhein niche paaye na parampar? Because that's not enough. You cannot go through just the form, just the rituals. It has to seep into you, to the very layers, to the cellular level, to that consciousness, to where your consciousness is transformed. It changes. This whole thing is about transformation. Japji Sahib, the bodies of Japji lead us from where we are to the transformation of the self. Gaviye suniye, man rakhiye pao. Then what happens? Jadon man de vich oh pyar aa janda hai, dukh par har sukh kar la jata. This is what we all want. We want to give up our dukh. We want to have the comforts. We want to be blissful. We want to be at ease. Everything, all our endeavors in life are to get happiness. And we run from pillar to post, from job to job, from one materialistic comfort to another. And yet there is no such. And the previous line Guru has told us that it's through listening, chanting, imbibing, becoming. It is through this process of immersing yourself in the Guru's and Vaheguru's gun and inculcating those gun. Now how, let's think a little bit, let's go a little bit deeper at this. How will having those guns make us sukhi? Because when we give up the ego, when we see the oneness in everyone, we will not cheat. We will not be greedy. We will not be fearful. We will not have enmity. We will not be arrogant. These are deep messages. when we truly go beyond the personality and become capable of empathy and compassion and forgiveness, we are not benefiting the other person, we are benefiting ourselves. It is through all of this that Babaji chisels us. You know, the diamond in the raw is just black, it's carbon. It is only through chiseling. You know, the Belgium cut diamonds are supposed to have the greatest shine because the cutters are so experienced that they really know how to chisel it to a point where it sparkles. So we have to chisel our consciousness to where it sparkles. And that is what contemplating on the good will do. Those guns, those good qualities will come in us, that pyar, us pyar vich assi range javange. And that's when, no matter what we do, whether we cook for our children or we do langar seva or we just sit, just exuding that effulgence. That is how people like Bhai Veer Singh transform people by their very presence. There is a story that I've heard from, again, my mother-in-law, about people coming to Bhai Veer Singh with a lot of questions. And they sat in his presence and he said, "Haan, daso." And they had no questions. Because there was so much radiance, there was so much peace that in that moment you became part of that peace. And there was nothing but that pure vibration, that pure consciousness. This is how transformation happens. That's how they say that Chitti, the touch of someone who is at that level, can transform. That is why Sangat.
You said the story, the same story goes with the Kabir Sahib and Faridji. When Faridji went to meet Kabir Sahib, and they had food together, and they slept, and next morning Kabir Sahib's son says, "Kamal son," he says, "Abba, आप लोग ने कुछ बात तो की नहीं, इतनी दूर से फरीद साहब आए हैं और तो बोलते क्या कहना क्या सुनना था उनको मेरे को पता है उनके मन में क्या है मेरे को उनको पता है." So it was just vibration, they were same wavelength.
Because verbal communication is what? It's a fraction of what communication truly is. It doesn't matter what you say with your words. They say actions speak louder than words. I think vibration speaks even louder than any action. Your energy can transform. Your thoughts, what you exude. So, dukh par har sukh kar la jaye. It is when you come into that space where you're all love, that this dukh will all go away. That peace in the presence that you feel, the peace in the presence, hazuri de vich jo sukh hai, you will experience. Yeah.
Quick question. So, you just emphasized on how the mere presence of such a evolved person can transform others. And in fact, earlier we've talked about how statues, or for that matter, even the written word or any multimedia, these are just tools to represent, to show the truth. And therefore they are removed. So that whether it's a picture or a statue or for that matter, even the written word, it's removed from that presence of that energy of that actual being. It's not the same thing, right? Let me put it like that.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So,
if through the word, if you take it just as words, then it is just words. But if you get into it deeply and absorb it, then you effectively come in the presence of the Guru just from reading his words. So it's a question of your own state of mind. It can be a presence, and reading multimedia on screen can be just reading words on the screen, but can be you really are in the presence of the Guru because you're absorbing those words and you're tuning into it. So I think it's a dangerous concept, though. The presence alone will do it because that's what leads to rituals also. that's what leads to saying कि matha टेक लिया and that will be enough कि दर्शन कर रहा है जाके गुरुद्वारे में, you know. You
The
can,
key
you can
is-
take, you
the
can
key
take that in a
is-
superficial
the
sense.
key is if
You can take it the
transformation
wrong way.
happens.
Yeah.
Also, so it takes
So
two
it's-
to tango. I got.
But
So
I
it's-
think
If you focus only on the presence or those kinds of things, you can get into a very superficial kind of approach. If you have to get into it deeply, but the other end is just intellectually reading it alone won't
It
work
doesn't.
either.
It
You
has
have to be
to-
spiritually with it, and that's where the presence kind of comes in.
Yeah, that's what it's anywhere. I mean, if it becomes ritual, it's like aarti karna, if you're doing, if it's just a ritual, it's not in your heart, then it's not aarti. Guru Sahib ne aarti kharab
And,
ki hai.
and yet when you do the aarti, all the senses are engaged.
Yeah, exactly.
But the gurus didn't just leave us a murti or a picture of themselves, they left us their words, their
Yes.
teaching, so we actually listen to them. So it's the
And the words
content
are the
and words are more
manifestation.
meaningful, yeah.
And the words are the manifestation. Bani is the manifestation.
So
of
Bani
But
Akala.
is
it's
the
actually
Guru
getting into
Granth
the word
Sahib
is
ne-
more important than just physical presence. Now
Yes,
it's true when he was there, the power was so great that you could absorb a lot more in the Guru's presence than you would just from reading the words. So they had so much aura and power.
Exactly.
But what they really felt was meaningful was the message.
Yeah.
Was to actually listen to it and understand it and get deeply into it.
But जिस तरह से पहले क्या है कि vis-a-vis, so I think jhana, matha tekna, at that point you are not understanding, you are not doing, but eventually it will lead. अगर तुसी matha रोज टेकोगे, रोज ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਉਹ sense आनी शुरू हो जाएगी, you know, क्योंकि that is a baby step.
If you take it as a step rather than as something in itself.
And you know,
But
As long as you recognize
eventually
it's a
you
step.
have to get involved.
No, every
But
that changes
some
too.
people just stay at that level.
Every
जाके प्रसाद कराता, वो कराता, वहाँ गुरुद्वारे वहाँ जाके दर्शन कर रहे हैं, you know, one can get into that attitude, and most people are at that attitude. You don't get past that, so it doesn't become a first step; it becomes the actual goal. That's the
So
thing to watch out
physically
for.
do first and then internally.
that's how it starts. Anything. You know, there's so many levels, and you have to evolve to the purest one, where you know, everything is that consciousness.
Means you have to set your goal to the real eventual
I can put it,
essence.
not to harp too much on it, but just if the guru was sitting there, we wouldn't dare to talk or gossip sitting in the gurdwara. या तो फिर लड़के एक दूसरे के पगों पर सभी no, that's I guess in that sense.
We don't
the
think
actual
that.
presence of the guru and the presence of everything. It's like
You know, yes, there is a danger in attributing power or not redemption, but a change of consciousness to a physical presence. Yes, because we're duped by people. There are charlatans out there. There are people, you know, that's why the prevalence of deras. But when you are in the presence of people that are in that pure consciousness, you feel it. You do feel it. And here the Guru says, by having that love in your heart, by chanting, by singing, by following that process where you are chiseled and your consciousness is purified, that is the process of dukh barhar sukh karya. It's only then. And everything that we do, everything else that we do, where we are trying to get sukh, comfort, whatever it is, materialistic comfort, any kind of sukh is going to be transitory. You know, people want sukh from their children, and that's why they say, whatever. I mean, name any sukh, and that is transitory. You know, people who are not married are constantly looking to get married, especially girls, you know, because they feel that what will you do, and yet marriage has its own challenges. So what I'm saying is that no matter what sukh you try to aim for or try to get in this world, you don't, because all of that sukh is very transitory, very ephemeral. It might give you joy for a little bit of time, and then like that solid iron bar, it rusts, because it's not immaculate, it's not Niranjan, it's not perfect in and of itself. Something that is not perfect, something that is not whole, how can it make you whole?
So it's jeev. I mean, any living person, any living thing has one aim has to get anand. The anand is super whatever
Bliss.
anand.
Bliss.
And but we have, that's our problem. That's where our journey is in the human being, that we have to achieve and understand and clear it. That we think physical comfort is sukh. We think the worldly so-called quote unquote love or affection, that's a sukh. So, but real anand is only Vaheguru. He uska naam hi anand hai. I mean, anand and Vaheguru vich koi farak nahi hai. So that is our aim. That's what our Guru Granth Sahib says ki us anand nu pao te apne aap niche wale.
Is dukh just state of mind?
Exactly. There is no
दुख
dukh.
सुख इस मन की बिरथा तुझी आगे सारे. That's why Guru Arjan Dev Ji on the Tati Tavi, he was sukhi. He said, Tera kiya meetha lage. Right? I mean,
When you're
it's
with
beyond understanding. It's beyond understanding. How could little children be bricked alive and have a smile on their face? It's beyond understanding.
So dukh sukh is very, it's a state of mind, and also it's very relative. It's relative. You know, you cannot say a sukh hai jab tak ki usme tusi dukh na
It's like
lekho.
night and day.
You know, then only usda tanu intensity, usdi sukh di aur dukh di significance ta hi pata chalti hai. So it's a very relative term. एक आदमी का दुख बहुत बड़ा हो सकता है, ते किसी होर का जिहड़ा बिल्कुल छोटा जिहा हो सकता है, because he's got everything else, and जिहड़ा जे भी दुख उसनूं जिहड़ा वो दुख लगदा है.
So dukh par har sukh kar la jaye. What car is this? Sukh kar la jaye. Not the physical abode, but
मन
this
soul.
soul, this being, and also nij kar vasa hoy. Us kar vich jithe tu ultimately jana hai. So dukh par har dukh tere tyage jange, you will give them up. You will they will just leave you. And also the dukh lage na paye. And ye ki dukh aange nahi on the path. Dukh lagega nahi. No, I think I've shared this before. Papa, Ajay's Papa, my brother, he burnt his face once. The oven caught fire, and he tried to throw some blankets into the fire. And when he did that, his beard got singed, and there were blisters on his face. And he went to the doctor, not even the same day, the next day, and the doctor said, you have 3rd-degree burns. And he said he didn't have any pain. He didn't have any pain. Like, wow, how is that possible? He says, I don't know. So,
There is physical explanation there too,
Yeah.
because the nerve fibers on the superficial layer, when there is a deeper burn, all of a sudden you don't feel the pain.
so maybe it was so deep that
If you have 1st degree, that's most painful because you have superficial nerve fibers, and little
maybe
2nd
that was-
degree,
So I just
little less
thought,
than
wow,
3rd.
how can that be? So maybe that example has a medical explanation. But then people
But yeah, I
are
understand.
in that consciousness where they are just oblivious of it.
The pain happens in the brain, and the spirit is higher than the brain.
Yes.
At a spiritual level, you can control your own mind.
Yeah.
Because we reach
The
that
body,
level. Yeah,
the
body's
body is
controlled by the-
afflicted.
Yeah.
The body is afflicted, the mind isn't.
Yeah.
So if you transcend the body, then you don't feel the pain. दुख पर हर सुख कर ला जाए, वो सुख तुसी अपने being विच लैन दे हो, और वो सुख लैके इत्थे कर दे दो मतलब ने I think, वो निज कर विच लै जांदा तानू, वो प्यार, to the ultimate abode, जिथे सदा bliss है, takes you there. And then the Guru says, Gurmukh Nadang, Gurmukh Vedang, Gurmukh Rehasamai. Naad is the sound current. Ved are the Vedas, right? The scriptures. Here Guru Nanak Sahib is saying, for me, that Naad is the most auspicious, the best, the most meaningful that comes from the Guru's mouth. That is the Naad. Those scriptures, that word, so we have the music and we have the word. So Naad is the music, and Veda, if you translate it, if you really go down to the crux of it, is the word. So that word, that knowledge that comes from the Guru's word is my Ved. That sound current that comes from the Guru is my Naad. So here, what is our Naad? Gurbani. Right? The pointer is to Gurbani. And that's why, again, in Sri Guru Granth Sahib says, कि ऐ सच्ची बानी है, गावो सच्ची बानी. And then there is this line that says, हो सतगुर बाजो और कच्ची है बानी. So any other word, any other scripture for us doesn't have that same importance as the word that comes from the Guru's mouth.
What about the primordial sound?
That is it. Ultimately, that's it.
That's the
The
Naad.
answer.
So all was supposed to be there, and we did take that.
We did take that and say Om because that's what vibrates. So again, Bani is so pithy. When I start thinking about what those words mean, it's like, oh my God, it means this and it means this and it means this. So Naad is the primal sound, the sound current, the vibration. The Naad here is also the Guru's music, the Kirtan. And Ved is, of course, the obvious meaning is the Vedas, and then the word, the wisdom. Gurmukh Naadam, anything, all of this, when it comes from the Guru's mouth, that is what I revel, and that's what I enjoy. That's what is the source of my nurturing and my, it feeds my soul. Gurmukh Naadam, Gurmukh Vedam, Gurmukh Rehasamai. And this is where I want to get absorbed. This is where I will lose myself. Again and again, the concept of surrender, the concept of giving up who you are, the concept of just total acceptance and flow.
How do you translate Gurmukh Rehasamai? Is that the Naad and the word, the sound, all that is
Because
absorbed in the Guru's word, sound part of that, Gurmukh Rehasamai? Or
it is through the Naad, through that sound current, through that vibration. This is how I understand it. Maybe there's another explanation. When you become that pure vibration, there are no barriers. Because everything is consciousness.
so what is Rehasamai?
You become one.
Through the Guru, you become totally absorbed in one.
Yeah.
Right.
Through the Guru's word, through the Guru's guidance, through the Guru's sound, through the manifest sound, through the Naad, through the Anand Shabad. It's these entities or this pure consciousness that breaks the walls. Maybe somebody has another explanation. This is how I understand it. Gurmukh Nadam, Gurmukh Vedam, Gurmukh Rehasamai. Vici, do you have another explanation for this?
I think you're absolutely right. Gurmukh क्यों से आ रही है? ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਮੁਖ ਦੀ ਰਾਹੀਂ
Guru di Avaz.
ਉਹਦੇ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਨਾਦ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨਾਦ ਹੈਗਾ ਅਨਾਹਤ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਦੀ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਹੀ ਸੁਣਾਈ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਵੇਦਮ means knowledge. This knowledge is obtained only through
Only through the word. Or Guru's knowledge is what transforms. Yeah.
ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਰਿਹਾ ਸਮਾਈ ਔਰ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਹੀ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ the God is ingrained into everything.
That is the other meaning.
ਜੈ ਜੈ
You
ਤੇ
can
ਕੋ
say
ਤੈਨ
both ways.
ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਹੀ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਗੁਰਮੁਖ
Through the
ਰਿਹਾ
Guru, you understand.
you understand ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਰਿਹਾ ਸਮਾਈ ਉਹ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ he is ingrained into everything, in every human being, in the birds, in the mountains. ਉਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਹੀ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ
So Vici, so देखो कितना मतलब
Omnipresent,
है ना? Again, it is so pithy कि गुरु दे राही ही पता लगता है, right? And गुरु दे राही ही तुसी समा जाते हो, और गुरु the word and गुरु the sound becomes instrumental in making you one.
Yeah. You're-
So Samaya can be taken both ways.
Samaya can be taken both ways.
Why gives up as a Samaya hoya,
Yeah.
or that as your Samaya.
Yeah. So I heard it as
Emergent, yeah.
Makes sense both ways.
Yeah.
it makes sense both ways.
It's ocean, but like it is not only one way to look at it. It is just an ocean. Yeah, we can just discover.
And see, that is
Janata.
what is there with Gurbani. Like you just start looking at the word and it's like, oh my gosh, it could mean this, it could mean this, it could mean this.
Yeah, it also depends on the stage where you are.
Yeah.
If you are here, the meaning is different. When you are up there, the meaning is different.
And sometimes the words are positioned in a way that it refers to what goes before and to what goes afterwards.
And
They
also you
describe
can
what?
you can imagine your own life. But when you were 10-year-old, you were thinking about meaning differently. Now it's different when you have different stage of consciousness.
And then Guruji says that Guru is my, the deity, Brahma. Guru is my Parvati. Guru is my Shiva, right? So again, we were talking about we don't want to condemn any deity. We don't want to say that, that is wrong and this is right. But Guru becomes all those gods and goddesses because it is the Guru that leads me to Vaheguru. Mera Guru. And here, it is referring to the Guru, but Guru and Satguru are also so interchangeable in Gurbani. तू ही मेरा ब्रह्मा है, तू ही मेरा ईश्वर है, तू ही मेरा सारा कुछ है, या तू ही मैनू उन्ना वक्त सिखांदा है. Because yesterday we had a meditation at my house and it's a very dear friend. And she always explains this as that when you talk about Saraswati, it is the goodness or the attribute of music, right? And when you talk about Lakshmi, it is the attribute of prosperity. And when you talk about this, but our concept of Vaheguru is Sargun and Nirgun. It contains all of that. And here that is what the Guru is referring to. That Guru ही मेरा ब्रह्मा है, गुरु ही वो है जो मैनू सिखांदा है, गुरु ही है जो क्रिएट करता है. So it could refer both to Satguru and to Guru.
God is Guru also.
These are
The
words are
light comes
interchangeable.
from God.
Yeah.
Enlightenment, the Bible.
Enlightenment, yeah. And
It's just
Guru.
coming to us through a physical Guru like Guru Nanak Dev Ji, but it's
Or the
God
Bani
himself.
Guru, or the Bani Guru, right? Gur Isar, Gur Gorak, Burma, Gur Parvati Mai, Jeho Jana, Akha Nahi, Kehna, Ratan Na Jai. Okay. Jeho Jana, अगर मैं समझ भी गया, even if I understand a fraction of it, I'm not able to relate. I cannot explain it. Because my understanding is so infinitesimal, it's so tiny. And that ocean of knowledge or love or that vibration, that pure consciousness is so beyond my understanding that even if I understood it a little bit, I won't be able to relate it to you. That's why this has also been referred to as Gunge ki mithai. That when somebody doesn't have the words to describe something and you're given something very sweet like honey, how will he describe it to you? So in one way we are all gunge. When we experience that effulgence, when we experience that pure consciousness, nobody can describe it. You can only experience it. That's why it's said, Sikhi is experiential. The walking on this path is experiential. It's not about theory. It's not about talking. It's not even about singing and chanting beyond that, because singing and chanting are tools that lead you to that. You have to experience it, you have to become it. And then words are not necessary.
Yeah.
Then your presence just radiates it. Jeho jana akha nahi, kehna kathan na jai. Cannot be described in words. Gura ik de pujai. This is all.
Now this is why Guru Nanak Dev Ji, so when he says the Guru told me, he's obviously talking about Vaheguru.
He's talking about. Exactly. Gur Prasad. Who was Guru Nanak's Guru? Vaheguru. And so Bani, that is, see again, Bani is our Guru, and Bani in Sri Guru Granth Sahib is described as the Akar of Vaheguru, as the manifestation of Vaheguru. I love this line. Satgur ki Bani Sat Swarup hai. It's the manifestation of Vaheguru. Gura ik de pujai. Okay, again two meanings. Let me have this one understanding. sabna jiyan ka ek data so मैं विसरना जाए. And then Gura ik de bujai. Let me have the understanding of the one. Gura ik de minu ek ko bujha de. Yeah? Let me have the understanding of the one. Which one? Sabna jiyan ka ek data. The one who is the Lord and Master of all. Sabna jiyan ka ek data so मैं विसरना जाए. Let me have this one understanding that there is just one. Again, you know, where I started with, that ek is described. The very concepts of Mool Mantra are further explained in all the steps of Japji. So that one that we started with, Atsa Jugatsa, that's the one that Guru is referring to, Gura Ik De Bujai.
But if you look at the previous line, it seems more to be saying, okay, I can't describe anything, I can't explain
But let me
anything,
understand,
But
let me-
there's this one thing I do know that Guru has taught me.
Okay.
And that is the next sentence.
So-
That's how I see it at least.
Okay, so there's a
But
third way of
again, there's
saying
a
it.
nick in that, so you still get that same thing.
So then there is this yet another dimension that so one is that I have this understanding. I don't understand anything, but I understand that there is this one reality. Or, oh my Guru, this is my prayer and my plea to you that let me have this one understanding. Let me understand this one truth. It could be I've understood it, it could be let me understand it, or it could be Guna Ikde Bujai, let me understand. Give me this blessing that I understand that there is this one entity, this one pure consciousness that pervades the world. Sabna jiya ka ek data, so main visar na jaye, that I don't forget this. So it could be that one lesson, Viji, that you're referring to.
Not to forget God is the one lesson.
Is that one lesson? It could be, I don't forget that consciousness, that Vaheguru, right? It could be, let me not forget. Gura ikde bujai, sabna jiyan ka ikdata suman. So it plays at so many different levels, so many nuances are there. So it's a prayer, it's a praise, it's that I've got it, you know, or let me get it. And it's all of them. At one level, it's all of them. Because they're all contained in that understanding. Because that's when that understanding also becomes prayer and worship. Where that very seeking becomes prayer and worship. Gura ikde bujai, sabna jiyan ka ek data, so main visar bajai. Vaheguru ji ka khalsa.
Vaheguru ji ki fateh.